Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing well. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we've got a couple of quite interesting, three stories actually very interesting this morning. It is the weekend, so you do tend to get some, especially around transfers, different types of stories. We've got the Dortmund CEO, Mr. Watzke, talking about transfers and people leaving this summer. Also very interesting developments around Koulibaly, if you've been monitoring those over the last couple of days, as well as Calhanoglu, who is a player that we were told a few months ago by Christian Falk, German journalist, that we were interested in bringing in for free this summer. Of course, he plays for AC Milan. We're playing them in the Europa League. We're talking about that and a couple of other things as well. Right, let's get on with it. So we're going to start off with Borussia Dortmund, and we're going to start off with what Mr. Watzke, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but he is the CEO of Dortmund, and he's been talking about their summer transfer plans, their future plans around whether they need to sell or not. Now, whether Manchester United retain interest in Jadon Sancho or not, whether you as fans would like us to sign Jadon Sancho or not. And I've been quite open about this. Last summer, yes. I think that was the signing we should have done. Now, we need a centre-back and a centre defensive midfielder before we get a right winger, in my opinion. And I would also say that Sancho will take up the whole transfer budget, which would be ridiculous when you've seen how bad we are defensively and from transitionally from the back to the front. There's no point in having a fantastic right winger if you are not going to have people who can get the ball to that winger. And at the moment, we don't. This is the problem we'll probably see tomorrow with Bruno against Chelsea. And this is the problem we've seen with Cavani. They are not getting the ball quick enough to create enough chances. And this is because against the better sides, we just do not have, we play too deep. And we do not have the people who can move the ball from back to front quick enough, because Fred, McTominay, Matic, they just ain't those players. And when Pogba's not there, we do suffer. Koulibaly coming to Arsenal, as he will have a huge budget when Zane's in the house. Well done, Zane. Let's move on anyway. Zane always throws my mind completely, because it's like that idiocy of an Arsenal fan. You know, when you're trying to have a serious conversation and a clown walks in. Anyway, we move on. Bless Zane. But realistically, so Manchester United, Sancho. Man United definitely interested in Sancho. I mean, this story that we're not interested, that he's not a priority, I wouldn't believe that. I think Man United may be trying to play the most obvious game ever, that they're trying to say we're not interested when we really are. I think Chelsea are doing that with Declan Rice, by the way. But with Sancho, what Watzke has said, who is the CEO of Dortmund, and what I must say about Dortmund, I'm not a big fan of Dortmund, and I do think that I'm not a fan of Dortmund because of how we've been treated by Dortmund over recent times. What I will say about Dortmund, and I will respect Dortmund on this, is that they are very open in the way they run their club. I mean, we hear a lot from Michael Zorc, who I think is the sporting director. You hear a lot from the chairman, which is Watzke, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. And this is the way German football tends to run. Bayern Munich are very much the same. The manager is the manager, but there is a communication with the fans and the support and the footballing world from people within there. This would be the equivalent of Manchester United's Ed Woodward talking openly about transfer plans and what they want to do. It would also be the equivalent of Manchester United's director of football talking openly about transfers and players. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't got one of those, have we? So, yeah, I do like the way German football operates like that. And anyway, what he's basically saying is that financially, they're not in a terrible situation, but there's certainly not going to be a club that is going to the bank to take loans out when they can sell a player. And basically what he said is that if COVID is a problem next year, then they're probably going to have to sell a player. If it looks like next season revenues will be dropping again with no fans in the ground or limited fans in the ground, then they'll be looking to sell a player in the summer. Now, this is a very clever statement from the CEO of Dortmund, because what it basically does is it prepares the fans for what's going to happen this summer. I actually think there's a very big possibility that fans will be back in the grounds next year, certainly in the UK. Maybe there'll be a bit of a bump in the autumn, maybe in the winter, because COVID is a winter illness that increases through the winter, as we've seen. So there's no guarantee that there will be fans in the ground capacity for the whole of next season. I don't think that can be. Therefore, Dortmund need to sell. And I think what their CEO is saying is that we're going to have to sell in the summer. And what he's very clearly saying is when we're a well-run football club, we're not going to take loans out to cover losses when we can sell a player. That player they're going to look to sell is Jadon Sancho, potentially Erling Haaland. But I don't think Erling Haaland's the player that Dortmund are looking to sell in a way to cover costs. I think Haaland will move because he wants to move. and it's a talent who wants to move. I think with Sancho, they see that as the money to help the business, so to speak. So, yeah, I think it very much is saying that Jadon Sancho's up for sale this summer, which is what we know. Hi, Mark. United need to get that Sancho deal. Reports say Chelsea are looking into signing Sancho, and if they get Sancho, what a team they will be, says Tariq. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Manchester United need to buy good players because they need to back their manager for once. I think that Chelsea always back their manager. I don't think Sancho makes Chelsea title winners. I think that Man City will be favourites for the title next year and maybe Liverpool again. But we need to be buying players because we need to be competing. And if we don't buy good players, we won't be competing next season. We cannot keep continuing to do what we're doing in the transfer market and expect to be in title races. But Dortmund definitely... I read that Dortmund are definitely putting up a player for sale there, and I think it will be Jadon Sancho. The interesting thing will be, will Chelsea go hard? I mean, Man United's biggest problem this summer in relation to Sancho, before we move on, is one, we messed him about last summer. We try and blame Dortmund, but we messed him about. He might not be interested in United now because he wanted it last summer and he wants something else. And also, I think there will be some competition for Sancho this summer that there wasn't last year. Remember, we had a clear run at Sancho last summer. There was nobody going in for Sancho. I think this summer there will be other clubs going for him. So if Manchester United think they're going to knock Dortmund down to about 70 million, that might happen. But I think somebody will have a bite themselves, whether it's a Real Madrid, a Chelsea, a Liverpool. There will be clubs that have a go at Sancho for 70 million, and that will rule United out anyway. So the ship might have sailed with Sancho. Mark, I probably rate Lindelof more than you, but wouldn't you play him tomorrow? Giroud is kryptonite opponent, exploits weak spots exceptionally. It's Daniel. I think if it's a good point, Daniel. Actually, if Chelsea are planning on playing Giroud as a number 9 tomorrow, Lindelof should not play. He's not physical enough and he's not good enough in the air. Eric Bailly should play and Maguire, because they're the best two centre-backs we've got in the air. I think people forget Sancho should already be here. We are a year behind in signings every year, says Dazu. At least a year. I would agree with that one. But look, I said there in relation to Sancho, I think we need a centre-back. Very interesting developments around Koulibaly. Now, unless you are... some people just live off English press, poor you, and they all, the United stand for the news. That's absolutely fine. You might not be monitoring what's going on in Europe, but very, very interesting what Koulibaly said this week is that Napoli have got to get top 4. They've got to get top 4 now, otherwise they won't be in the Champions League next year. Now, they've just been knocked out of the Europa League. I think they got knocked out by Granada on Thursday. And I think, well, they're not in the top 4 at the moment, but I think they're in 6th place with a game in hand that would take them a point off 4th place in Serie A. Now, the interesting thing here is that Koulibaly is a player that we spoke about a week ago that actually I and some others said I'd take him. If you're looking at Ramos at 35, why are you not looking at Koulibaly, who's 30 in the summer? He's only got 2 years left on his contract, and if Napoli are not in the Champions League, then they will, and Koulibaly himself will be looking to move this summer. And would he not be the right sort of centre-back for Manchester United? Now, the race for top 4 in Serie A will be definitely Inter. They will be in the top 4. AC Milan are 2nd, Juventus are 3rd. I think those 3 have got Champions League football nailed down. The 4th spot is between Napoli, Atalanta, Lazio and Roma. And, well, there's only a 25% chance that Napoli are going to win that race. So, look, I think with Koulibaly, it is one to keep an eye on. And I'm not going to start saying he's in the top 3 targets for United, but it's definitely something that when you are looking at spending £50 million on a centre-back, I think Koulibaly at 30 will probably get ignored because of his age, but would be, in my opinion, way better than any centre-back that we've got currently at the moment, and also is a leader and is also experienced. So I think he's a player that Manchester United should be looking at, and I certainly think that he's a player that's going to be on the move. And let's not forget, Pep Guardiola has been trying to get Koulibaly for 3 years now. This is the thing. So he's a very, very good centre-back, and I'm sure if Man City would like him and Liverpool would like him, then Manchester United should be looking at him as well, because that, unfortunately, is what we aspire to be. And I think he'd be available at a reasonable price. And I think if Napoli are not in the Champions League, then it makes sense for all parties. And the COVID tax will bring the price down as well. Maguire and Lindelof will cost us every trophy, says Rudy. Koulibaly has had his worst season yet, says Ziggy. But I don't really care. I'm not really interested in that, to be honest with you. I'll be at, people might think this is controversial, but I don't really care if Koulibaly's had a bad season because I know what sort of a player he is. This is not based on one season, and maybe you could say Upamecano's had a bad season. I'm a bit unsure about him, or Koundé's had a bad season. But we're talking about Koulibaly. He's 29, going to be 30 in the summer. One bad season. And I don't necessarily think he has had a really bad season. I understand what you're saying to a certain point, but I mean, he's had COVID quite recently. It's a weird season as well. I don't think De Bruyne has had a very good season. If I'm absolutely honest, I know he's been injured a couple of times, but I don't think De Bruyne has had a very good season. I think Bruno is better than De Bruyne this season. I think De Bruyne is a better player than Bruno, but this season Bruno is better than De Bruyne. Who knows why people are not... This season of all seasons, I think you can write off a lot of players if they've had a bad year because it's different. Some players will respond better to playing in front of crowds. Some people will be better in training, and there's loads of stories over the year of United about players that don't train well, but on a match, they are the best player. And then you've got some people who are the best player in training and they can't do it on a match. So these things are true. Some people in a training environment are very good and then they're crap in front of a crowd, and then the other way around. So maybe we are seeing some players who are not performing this season because they're not playing in front of crowds. I mean, I've spoken to a few players, and it's been in the media as well, that one of the things I always ask players who are playing at the moment is, what is it like playing without fans in the ground? Because I think as fans, we have to adapt, and I don't have the audio on. That's how I do it because I can't be arsed listening to. I hate the sound of matches on Match of the Day. When there's no crowd there, I hate it. So I watch football without audio, and that's my coping mechanism. It makes it feels a little bit more real. What players have said, and they've said it in the mainstream media, so it's no breaking news here. What they've said is it's hard. It is hard. It's like it's behind the. It feels it's. It's important. It is important because there's a real league, there's a real Champions League, there's a real FA Cup that you're playing in, but it doesn't feel anywhere near what it feels like when you're playing in front of a few thousand fans or tens of thousands of fans, and that's been an adaptation. And so I think it probably has impacted on some players. And whether you think Koulibaly's having a good season or not, I don't think it's anything to do with Koulibaly being on the decline or not being good or anything like that. And look, Koulibaly played shit against Barcelona, didn't he, a year ago? So he can have bad games, but I think he's a good player. He might be getting slower. I don't know. See, that's what I don't agree. I don't think Koulibaly's getting slower. And if that was the indication, I don't think that's the case. Phil Jones, no, not going to talk about that. And why don't we get Manolas from Napoli? Mark says Hamza. I do like Manolas, but I don't know whether he'd be what I'd be looking at Manchester United, to be honest. But Koulibaly's definitely not slow. He'd be as quick. I don't know whether he's. Eric Bailly's very fast, Like, the problem with Eric Bailly, and I don't want to dwell on this, but the problem with Eric Bailly is injury. You can't trust Eric Bailly. And defensively, he is a bit of a liability at times. I think because Eric Bailly offers our centre-backs what they don't have, the pace that Eric Bailly brings, we all love Eric Bailly. But I'll always say this about Eric Bailly, even if he could stay fit, he's not the world's best centre-back. He has got major issues. Positionally, he does get pulled out sometimes, and he's a little bit rash. He's not the world's best centre-back. I wouldn't put him in the top 20. But the reason he's so important for United is because of his pace and his no-nonsense approach. He doesn't hesitate. He will go in and throw his body in, and he is quick. I don't know that Koulibaly's as quick as Eric Bailly, but he's much quicker than Lindelof and Maguire, and he's definitely got pace. Kaylee says Koulibaly or Lindelof. Wash your mouth out, Kaylee. That's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't put Eric Bailly in the top 20 centre-backs. No, I wouldn't. I think we, myself included, I think we overrate Eric Bailly because he's so much better than the two centre-backs that we've got. But I don't think he's in the top 20 centre-backs in the world. I mean, come on, get real. Seriously, get real. You will easily name 20 centre-backs better than Eric Bailly. I'd probably put him in the top 30, but there are plenty of centre-backs better. We do overrate Eric Bailly. He's very good, and he is our best centre-back, but we do overrate him because he's very injury prone and he has got mistakes in him. There are people like I don't think Ricky rates Eric Bailly, and I'm pretty sure There's people who do like the super chats, like Sean Negative Turner, Robert McCormack. I don't think they rate Eric Bailly much either, but it's because he offers so much more than what we've got at the moment. But I tell you what, on a finishing point before we move on to the next topic, if we had a top-class centre-back, you would notice the difference between a top-class centre-back and what we've got in general. I think the one who's got the most potential is Twan Sebi, to be honest with you. Quiff game looking strong today, says Ed Out, marking. The board won't buy a 30-year-old for high price, says Sony. Well, we spent a lot of money on Cavani, didn't we? I know he was free, but his wages are big. Let me talk to you about... I want to talk about Tuchel because he's come out with something very, very interesting. We're going to talk about Calhanoglu. So basically... This is interesting. This is high-level management, and I think that Tuchel's going to be very, very motivated tomorrow. One, because they're 6 points behind us, but two, he's got a bit of a gripe with Manchester United, and he's mentioned this, that night in Paris where Rashford won it with the penalty, he said he was in a very dark place after that. It's the lowest point he's ever had in football. So he's got a gripe with Manchester United. He's got an axe to grind, and he will be very motivated tomorrow to get a result over us. And I hope that Manchester United are going into that game with that mentality as well. We can't just treat this like a game. This is just a game and we've got a few injuries. I think Chelsea, and from what Tuchel's saying, they're very motivated for this game. They know the importance of this one. They know they need to win it, and I think they're going to be very up for it. And I don't think we can turn up and not turn on for 20 minutes. We've got to treat this like the big game it is. And I think as fans, we've got a part to play in that. But the players ultimately, and the manager and the coaches have got the biggest part to play. I feel like we're limping towards this game. I don't think it's got the build-up it should have, and I don't know why. I think maybe because we only played on Thursday night and we're playing so many games. Maybe because we're in a position of potential comfort because we're 6 points ahead, but that could spin in a week. We could lose that 6 point lead over Chelsea in a week because we've got Man City, haven't we, in a week's time. But it feels to me, when you listen to what Tuchel's talking about, our form against Tuchel is good, says Ozzy Montana. I think you'll find we lost the last game, mate, and we lost it quite comprehensively at Old Trafford. So stop living in a mythical past. The last time we played PSG with Tuchel, we lost, didn't we? So it's not that good. You go off your last game and we got drilled, didn't we, by PSG? So, although if Martial had scored that chance, it might have been a bit different. But look, Tuchel and what we've done against Tuchel with PSG is not Tuchel and Chelsea. I just feel, I don't know. I think we'll get a draw tomorrow, and I think we've got to get something tomorrow. But I don't know. Manchester United just need to go into this game pumped up, focused, and it's huge. As I said last night, I would be trying to get the players up for this by saying, if you get this result, you go 9 points ahead of Chelsea. That's basically goodbye Chelsea. We shouldn't be giving up a 9 point gap with however many games there are to go. Is it 12, 13? So massive, massive opportunity for us. But you feel that the way Tuchel's talking, he's talking about how we play, he's talking about that night in Paris. He knows this is a massive game for Chelsea, and he knows they've got the confidence. I mean, they've just been to Atletico Madrid. Well, they didn't go to Atletico Madrid, but they've just played Atletico Madrid, and they played them off the park tactically, possession-wise. So they will have confidence. They've got an extra 2 days of rest as well. I think it's going to be a very difficult game, and you already get the feeling that Chelsea are massively up for this game, and we've got to be up for it. We can't just go into it and play tentative, let's see what it's all about for 20 minutes, because they could overwhelm us. We've got to be up for this from minute one. What would you wish for this year? A centre midfielder or 101.5 million subs, says Harry. Mate, I'm not really about self-gratification and all that lot. I would rather Manchester United succeed, so I'm not really bothered about 1.5 million subscribers. If that happens, great, but I want Manchester United to succeed, so I want Manchester United to get a centre defensive midfielder. We always win against Tuchel when we are away from home, says Rich. It's this sort of idiocy that winds me up, really, because it's arrogance. You can't live off this. We always do this. We always do that, because then you'll be the first person moaning like a complete and utter prat tomorrow when we get beat. So respect who the opposition is. Respect the fact that they're coming hard behind us. That's what she said. And we've got a really hard week. We've got Chelsea, Crystal Palace and Man City all away from home. If we come out of that week with our unbeaten away in over a year intact, I'll be very impressed, because I don't think we will come out of it. I don't think that is going to happen. I think we are going to lose our away record this week, and I don't want it to go, but it's a very, very hard week, and I think we've got a lot of injuries. We're playing a lot of games, And we were shite against Newcastle last week. I mean, people forget we were absolutely shit against Newcastle last week. For the first hour, anyway. The last half an hour, I think Newcastle ran out of steam. But we were bloody dreadful, weren't we? So I just think that instead of going into games saying, well, we always beat Tuchel away from home and we're unbeaten away from home, I just think, look at this game in its enormity and respect it. And we've got to have the right. If we haven't got the right attitude, how can you expect the bloody players to have the right attitude? They've got to go into this wanting it from minute one. It's a huge opportunity. And with the way the fixtures are, if we were to lose tomorrow, I think top four becomes a real issue. 3 points off Chelsea, 3 points off Liverpool. Leicester probably gone ahead of us if they beat Arsenal. So it's a huge game. Absolutely huge. And we need to pump it up. If we drop points, do we drag ourselves into a top four race, says Ewan Black? Well, I think we're already in a top four race, Ewan. Already in a top four race. And I think if we lose tomorrow, I'll be really worried. Really worried. Because, as I said, I don't think our form's amazing. I think against Sociedad we played well in both games. But our league form's a bit hit and miss. And you don't want to get dragged into this. You don't want to get dragged into this. I like Cavani, but I think as United fans have really overhyped his performances. Take the Saints goal away and I think his time at United has been average, says LJ. Ooh, then. Oh, whoa, I don't know. I mean, I did see a quote from Cavani, and I don't know whether he's been misquoted, but I did see a quote from Cavani today saying that there's not much difference between the French league and the Portuguese league. And I was like, look, I like you, Edison, but you're talking out your arse there. What the hell are you talking about that the French league and the Portuguese league aren't much different to the Premier League? I mean, the Portuguese league is nowhere near as good as the French league. And the French league ain't as good as the Premier League. The French league has got a couple of teams in it that could play in the Premier League, but half that French league, they belong in League Two. Like, it's not a good quality league, the French league, and the Portuguese league, beyond again 2 or 3 teams, is not a good quality league either. So I don't know what Cavani's on about there. But bringing it back to what I think about Cavani, I think he's. I won't get proven right on Cavani because I said I'd rather take Josh King, so I'll always hold the L on that. But there is an aspect of what I said that could become true, and I hope it doesn't, that I think that he was a panic buy, and I think he was a panic buy. We know that. It's not his fault, and actually he's turned out to be a good panic buy, unlike Ighalo. But we did panic, we didn't get the players we wanted, and we just grabbed whatever was available and pretended that it was our big signing, gave it the number 7 shirt. And Cavani has been very good for us, and I hope he's back fit soon. But let's not forget, he's already had 2 injuries that have kept him out for a few games. And he's only really been here for 4 months. So that injury record is an issue. And I don't think he's back tomorrow. So he's missing, they're not major injuries, but I think he missed two or three games the first time. This time he's missing 3 games, so they become an issue. Mark, with the hype for the Chelsea match not being there, might be because of the fans not being in the stadium. What do you think, says Sammy? I agree with you, Sammy. Let's go tomorrow. MVP onwards and upwards. I just hope we can get a win tomorrow. I don't think any game has the hype it used to have because of the lack of fans in the ground, and I think that shows what we already know, is that without you, football really isn't as appealing. I think also the relentless nature of the football doesn't allow games to get built up probably like they would do in a normal season. Ollie said it himself. It's the longest short season there's ever been. And the games are relentless, aren't they? I mean, we're literally playing every 3 days. So, I think you don't really get the hype around a Manchester Derby or Liverpool Man United or Chelsea Man United as much as you might have done. And I think fans in grounds make a big difference to it as well because the atmosphere is just not the same, is it? Please smash a like on the video, by the way, and subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We are on that road to... I've got the right number up there now as well, and we are on the road to 1 million subscribers. So please subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Share the video if you have subscribed. I want to talk to you about Calhanoglu. This is a player who plays for AC Milan. I think he's still only about 27. He's out of contract in the summer. Christian Falk a few weeks ago did say that Manchester United had been in contact with his agent. The British press will tell you that we're not in for him at all, but we are going to be playing against him, obviously, in about a week and a half when we play AC Milan over 2 legs. So, it'd be interesting, is it a bit of an audition for Calhanoglu? Well, the British press, specifically the Manchester Evening News, are saying we're not in for him, but there does remain that possibility from European press that we would be looking at him. And I think he was always looked as a potential replacement for sort of Juan Mata, if Juan Mata was to go and Lingard was to go. I mean, he's a good player. He is a good player. I think he would be a decent player to have within the squad, a sort of younger version of a Mata, and probably arguably a better technical player. I think he is a better technical player than Lingard, actually. But knowing United, we'll probably let Mata go and just keep Lingard, which I don't think it helps Jesse Lingard at all. I mean, I'm doing a watch along at lunchtime, actually. That just reminds me, Man City against West Ham. I'm doing that on That's Football today, and I'm really excited to watch. I haven't actually watched West Ham with Lingard. I haven't watched a game with West Ham with Lingard, actually, I don't think. Because, no, I don't think I have. So I'm looking forward to watching that. If you're watching that, I'll be on That's Football at 12:30. But I don't think Lingard's future can be at Manchester United. He needs to play first team football. So maybe there is something in Calhanoglu. And I think, where there's a possibility, I'll give it a watch. Well, obviously I'll be watching it when we play AC Milan. And as a freebie, if you can offload Mata and bring him in, that might not be a bad deal. What do you think is the key player for United tomorrow? Says AJ Flores. Bruno as ever. Mark, I hope Zlatan doesn't turn up against you, as we want to see you in the final. I'd be more worried about Olympiacos if I was you, mate. Didn't they knock you out last year? And apparently he's created the most chances in Europe, Calhanoglu. And Jesse's playing brilliant at the moment. Lingard looks happy at West Ham, says Travis. And I just hope with Lingard, all I'm going to say about Lingard before we move on to the next thing is, that I just hope that Lingard doesn't feel that he's proving a point and he'll come back to United and get his place back. Because that's never going to happen, and it shouldn't happen. The quality and the positions that Lingard play are too good for him to play first team football for us. If he wants to sit on our bench, fine. But if you think you're getting in the first team, I think that's unrealistic. You're not that player, as far as and I know it's really blunt, but it's the sort of thing Pep Guardiola does, Jose Mourinho used to do, Klopp would do. You would sit them down and say, you've done a fantastic job at West Ham and you've proven what a good player you are. But in a Manchester United team, you don't start, because you're not better than Bruno, you're not better than Rashford, and you're not better than what we've got on the right wing either, and you're not really a right winger. So I can't find a place for you, Jesse, but I can find a bench spot for you, but you might get disappointed with that, because look at what you're doing at West Ham. You're one of their best players. And that is why Lingard should go in the summer, because he will play regularly for West Ham, maybe even a Leicester. Probably not a Leicester, actually. Probably a West Ham. I think that's a perfect club for him, and I hope that is his driver in the summer. And I hope it's not about, well, I've just proved I'm good enough for United, I'm going to come back and fight for my place, because I think that will be a futile fight. I don't think he'll ever be good enough to get a first team spot for United. He'll be good enough for the bench, definitely, but he won't be good enough for the first team, and therefore it's just creating the problem we've had for the last couple of years, where he wants to be in the first team, but he can't. Whereas, go and play your career out. You're 28 years of age. Go and play your career out. He's got a great battle to get back in that England squad, and he probably would normally be in the England squad. But as we were saying, Maddison, Foden, Grealish, Mount, they're all playing in the positions that he wants to play. So even go and play for West Ham and fight for that. Go and play for West Ham and get back on Instagram, get back on Twitter, and people will say you're taking the piss with that, but I'm not. Jesse loves that lifestyle. He loves being in the media. He loves the fame of it, like some people do. He embraces it. He loves it, and you've seen that since he's been back in the limelight at West Ham. He's enjoying life. He's doing his dancing. He's on his Insta. He's enjoying life. And at Man United, that's limited because you won't play. At West Ham, you'll be a star, and you'll get that for the next few years of your career. And I think he should go. And ultimately, I will be honest. I'm being selfish here. It is ruthless. But we will benefit because we will get about 20 million quid that we can spend on a centre-back or a CDM. So it works for everybody. But on a personal note, I do think it's a great move for Jesse to get out of Manchester and go and play for a team where he can play first-team football. Because he, in my mind, he will never be a first-team player for United. He won't be able to hold the spot because they're better. We've got better players in the positions he wants to play. And I think he should be playing first-team football. And I hope that's what he does because it's best for his career. And I'm loving what he's doing at West Ham. It reminds me so much of Phil Neville when he went to Everton. Phil Neville couldn't get a first team spot at Manchester United and he went to Everton. I think he was roughly around the same age. I think he was in his late 20s. He became captain at Everton and he had a very good career in the Premier League at Everton and he enjoyed his football at Everton. Of course he wanted to play for Manchester United, but he just couldn't quite get a place in a United shirt. And he goes to Everton and has a good career. And I think that's what Jesse should look at that. And do that. And I always wanted Neville to do well at Everton. And I'd always want Jesse to do well as well. So hopefully that will happen, because I think it's the best for all parties. But there are people out there who are like, oh, he's tearing it up, bring him back. It's the whole De Gea Henderson thing again, isn't it? People don't think it through. Oh, Lingard's tearing it up, bring him back. And play him where? Where are you going to play him other than sitting him on the bench next to Donny, who's also another player who's been massively wasted? We can't. You've got to think. You've got to think. If you want to progress as a football team, you've got to think. You can't just go, oh, he's tearing it up, bring him back. And do what with him? What are you going to do with him? Bench Bruno? Like, you've got to think about, there's 20 million there. He goes on as a career. Best luck to him. We use the 20 million for something we really need, like a centre-back or a CDM. And, you know, I saw this again. Mark, how do you feel about tiki-taka football, says Tarek? I'm not a big fan of it. It's not my favourite style, to be honest. I prefer Klopp to Pep. I like the Klopp style of play. The high press, the energy, the quick movement, getting down the wing, whipping crosses in. I like wing play. I've always liked it because that's what United was all about. I think Klopp's style of football is the closest thing to Sir Alex in the Premier League, and I've said this for a few years now. That getting people in the box, getting crosses into the box, moving the ball quickly, overwhelming teams, playing a high line. It's the style of football I like. I don't like possession, tiki-taki. I don't like it. It's fantastic and it's very hard to coach. And I've always said that Pep's a very, very genius coach in relation to that. But it's not my style of football really. But no, I saw another journalist the other day saying about Henderson, about how he shouted at Twansebi to mark somebody and then caught the ball on his 6-yard box. And I was like, oh my God, it's getting worse. Why don't you just write an article saying, I want Dean Henderson to play in goal for Manchester United because I want him to be in goal for England in the Euros? Because basically that's what it's all about. I'm telling you now, Dean Henderson, some people were giving him 7 out of 10 against Sociedad, right? He didn't do anything. It was an average performance. Shouting at your defenders and catching the ball is your job. Now, if you think he's better than that at De Gea, that's absolutely fine. But he spilt the only shot on target. And I didn't make a big deal of it because I don't think it is a big deal. But if David De Gea had spilt the only shot on target, I'm telling you now, he's getting a 3, he's getting a 2, and he's getting a bloody extradition order. He's getting deported. So I just wish these people, they've been to bloody university. They're journalists. They're not football fans. They're journalists. Like they've got a profession behind them. They've got a degree, and yet they don't really look at it in relation to the massive part which is about football now. Business, baby. Stop looking at it in a way that, oh, I want Henderson to play over David De Gea, and look at the actual club you're meant to be reporting on and explain to us, instead of talking about catching the ball and shouting, explain to us how you put Dean Henderson in goal and what you do with David De Gea when he's on 18 million a year with 3.5 years left on his contract and nobody will buy him. Explain that one, because dropping De Gea because somebody can catch a ball and shout is not going to justify benching a player and losing 18 million a year, is it? So can we just get a little bit deeper in some of the thought process that we have? Because we're better than that. We're better than just going, oh, I think he should be dropped and he should play. Because football's gone beyond that now. It's not just football. As we know, it's business as well. And you've got to look at things. You can't just go, oh, get Jesse back, he's playing well. And play him where? The decision making in football now is so much different to what it was 30 years ago. You can't just go, I reckon we should drop him and pick him, or let's get him back and don't sell him. But what are you going to do with him? And what are you going to do with that player you've just dropped, who's your biggest earner, for 3.5 years? Football has moved on. The level of knowledge and opinion from you and everybody now is just so much different to what it was 30 years ago, because we're so much more aware of things about contracts and wages and also squads and where somebody fits in. It's not as simple as, oh, let's buy Grealish, let's buy Mount, let's buy Foden, let's buy Maddison. Yeah, that would be the stupidest thing in the world, despite them all being good players. Where would you play them? And I think that's what you think about now. I think football fans have got a deeper knowledge of the clubs and the players that they watch, and they can work a problem out. And I think 30 years ago, I probably used to go to school and people would say, you know, you'd already have Cole and Cantona, and people would go, yeah, I know, I think we should get Collymore. Maybe we should get Batistuta as well. And you're like, well, what are you going to do with 4 strikers? We've already got 4 strikers, so yeah. Anyway, Mark, this time we have our secret weapon in Saka. Oh, he's still talking about Arsenal. And if Sergio Romero was English, he'd be the media's goalkeeper by now, says Callum Robinson. I see what you mean. Anyway, look, I'm doing a watch-along for West Ham versus Manchester City in an hour. You can join me on That's Football for that. We'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight on here. I'm doing a rugby watch-along as well. Paddy Power, if you're interested in the rugby, I'm doing a watch-along for that tonight, this afternoon at about 5 o'clock. So lots going on. Busy day for me. We'll be back on here at 8 o'clock, and if anything goes on, we'll be back live anyway, but I don't think we will have anything before 8 o'clock. Please subscribe. We're on that road to 1 million. And can I just say as well, United stand picks for Chelsea tomorrow. It's a huge game. We've got another £1,000 cash pot prize to give away. Free to enter. You've got to be over 18 because we're giving cash away in the prize pot. 12 questions to do with the game tomorrow. Will Bruno score? Will Man United score in the first half? You win points for every question you get right. There's a live leaderboard that's up on the app when the game kicks off. Make sure you enter. If you've already downloaded it, you may as well play again because it's free to play. If you haven't played, links in the video description. You've got to be over 18. Terms and conditions are there. Play responsibly. You have to be over 18, but it is free to enter. £1,000 cash prize pot. Play it. Links in the video description. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.